And I first saw my face on the internet while sitting alone in a diner, trying to eat pancakes with hands that had repaired engines for 40 years. My daughter had posted a video of me standing in my own kitchen, voice raised, finger pointing, looking like a bitter old man who had lost his mind. The caption said, "When your toxic father plays victim again." 3 million people had watched it by breakfast, and strangers called me crazy, abusive, controlling, and pathetic. My daughter had cut out the part where she spent 20 minutes mocking my dead wife, hiding my medication, and laughing while her camera rolled. And she cut out the part where I asked her to leave my house. She cut out the truth, but she forgot about the small security camera above my refrigerator. So I closed my phone, paid for my coffee, and decided I would let her sponsors see the version she forgot to edit. My name is Raymond Carter. I am 72 years old, a retired auto mechanic from Columbus, Ohio, and for most of my life, I was the kind of man people only noticed when something broke. Cars, lawnmowers, furnaces, garage doors, bicycles, old trucks, kitchen sinks, rusted hinges, anything with a noise it should not be making. I did not have fancy clothes or fancy language. I had a toolbox, a steady hand, and a habit of showing up when people needed help. My wife, Linda, used to say that was my love language before people on television started naming things like that. She said I fixed what I could because I did not know how to say I was scared. She was right. Linda was usually right. She had a way of looking at a person that made lying feel like extra work. She taught 4th grade for 31 years, and every child in her classroom believed they were smarter by June than they had been in September. She could turn a shy kid into a reader, and a bully into a helper, and a bad day into a story worth laughing about later. We had one child, Brittany. Brittany came late in our marriage after years of waiting, doctor's prayers, and then quiet disappointments. Linda cried through in bathroom stalls, so I would not feel helpless. When Brittany was born, I was 41 years old and already had gray in my beard. And I held her in the hospital with grease still under one fingernail because she arrived 2 weeks early and I had come straight from the shop. Linda looked at me holding that baby and said, "Ray, don't spoil her so much that she forgets how to be kind." I laughed then. I should have listened harder. We gave Brittany everything we could. Not rich people everything. Working people everything. The kind that comes from overtime, second-hand furniture, canceled vacations, homemade Halloween costumes, and a father eating leftovers so his daughter could have new shoes when she wanted dance lessons. And I took Saturday repair jobs. When she wanted a phone in high school, Linda tutored after school. When she wanted to study communications at a private college, I sold my 1969 Chevelle, the car I had rebuilt with my own hands over 12 years. I told Brittany it was just a car. Linda knew better. She held my hand in the driveway after the buyer left and said some sacrifices should be remembered by the people who receive them. And Brittany remembered for a while. She was sweet as a little girl, funny, dramatic, always performing for family at Thanksgiving, standing on a chair with a hairbrush microphone, making everyone clap. Linda said she had a gift for holding a room. I thought that was a good thing. I did not understand then that some gifts become hunger if nobody teaches them restraint. After college, Brittany moved to Cincinnati, then Nashville, then back to Columbus when her online career started growing. She became what people call a lifestyle creator at first. And it was makeup, apartment decorating, budget fashion, and short videos about being a young woman trying to find herself. Linda watched everyone. She commented with heart emojis. And even when Brittany barely answered, I did not understand half of it, but I was proud because Linda was proud. Then the videos changed. Brittany learned that pain got more views than curtains. And family conflict got more comments than recipes. Tears paid better than tips. She started talking about emotional survival, generational trauma, narcissistic parents, healing from toxic homes. And at first I thought she was speaking generally, the way people online borrow words to sound wise. Then she told a story about growing up in a house where love had conditions. Then another about a father who used money to control everyone. And then another about a mother who enabled silence. Linda cried the first time she heard that one. She asked Brittany why she would say such things. Brittany said it was her truth, and that was the phrase she used whenever she did not want facts in the room, her truth. I asked her if her truth included the tuition we paid, the car we bought, the rent we covered, and the nights. Linda stayed awake when Brittany had panic attacks. The years we lived small, so she could feel big. Brittany said I was proving her point. Linda died 2 years later from heart failure. It was not sudden, but it still felt like a theft. The woman who had filled every corner of the house was gone, and the silence she left had weight. Brittany came home for the funeral with a camera crew of 2 friends, and a phone always angled somewhere. She posted a black and white photo of her hand on Linda's casket. The caption was beautiful, and too beautiful. Thousands of people wrote that they were crying. I stood in the kitchen reading those comments and realized strangers had received a better version of Brittany's grief than I had. After Linda was gone, my daughter stopped visiting as a daughter and started visiting as content. I did not know that was possible until I became the subject. The first sign was the ring light. Brittany brought it over one Sunday afternoon in a white case, set it up near my living room window, and said she wanted to record a heartfelt conversation about grief. I told her I did not want to be filmed. She smiled and said nobody would see anything unless I approved it. Then she pressed record before I had answered. She asked me questions designed to make her look wounded. Did I regret being emotionally unavailable? Did I understand how hard it was for her to grow up around masculine silence? Did I realize Mom had carried the emotional labor of the family? I did not know what half those phrases meant. But I knew when someone was not asking to understand, she was building a scene. I told her Linda had loved her. I told her we had done our best. I told her grief did not need an audience. Brittany looked disappointed. That part never made the video. The clip she posted later showed me rubbing my face, tired and irritated, while she sat across from me with tears in her eyes. And the caption said, "Trying to have one honest conversation with a father who refuses accountability." It got 800,000 views. That was when the messages began. At first, they were from strangers. Women named Madison and Kayla and Brooke telling me I should be ashamed. Men with profile pictures of trucks calling me weak. Teenagers calling me a boomer villain. And a woman from Arizona sent me a long message explaining that my energy was abusive. My energy I had spent my life fixing transmissions and paying medical bills. I did not know my energy had become public property. And then people in town saw it. The cashier at the pharmacy stopped making small talk. A neighbor who used to wave across the street started looking away. One of Linda's former co-workers called and said she hoped I was getting help. Help. That word sounded gentle until you were the one being accused of needing it. Brittany's following grew, so did her income. She signed sponsorships with wellness brands, therapy apps, home goods companies, a meal delivery service, and a clothing line built around words like softness, healing, and boundaries. She posted videos from my porch, my kitchen, my garage, always framing herself as the wounded daughter, returning to a painful childhood home. She filmed Linda's old teacups without asking. She filmed my hands while I fixed a sink and wrote, "Some men can fix everything except the damage they caused." That one went viral too. I asked her to stop using my house. She said I was trying to control her story. I asked her to stop mentioning Linda, and she said Mom belonged to her too. I asked her not to film me. She said I was being paranoid, controlling, narcissistic, toxic, unsafe. Words that once meant something serious became tools in her hand. And my granddaughter, Chloe, was the only person who seemed embarrassed by it. Chloe was Brittany's daughter from a relationship that had ended before the child could remember her father. And she was 13, quiet, sharp-eyed, and kinder than the home she lived in. She came with Brittany sometimes and sat with me in the garage while her mother filmed in the house. Chloe liked old radios and broken clocks. She said fixing things made sense because broken pieces did not pretend to be fine. One afternoon, Chloe asked if I knew her mom filmed me when I walked away. I asked what she meant. She showed me a draft video on Brittany's tablet. It was me in the backyard, standing beside Linda's rose bushes, wiping my eyes with a handkerchief. Brittany had added sad piano music and text across the screen that said, "Sometimes they cry because they lost control, not because they feel remorse." I had been crying because it was Linda's birthday. That night I bought 2 security cameras, one for the garage and one for the kitchen. Not hidden in a criminal way, just small cameras for my own home, connected to my phone, recording the doors and main rooms. I told myself it was for safety, and that was true, but deep down, I think I already knew I needed a witness that could not be edited. The main insult happened in my kitchen on a Thursday afternoon. Brittany had come over with Chloe after school, saying she wanted to check on me. She brought groceries I had not asked for and placed them on the counter where the camera above the refrigerator could see everything. She wore soft beige clothes and had her hair pulled back like she was going to a counseling session. That was how I knew she was filming something. Brittany dressed according to the emotion she wanted strangers to believe. I told her I was making coffee and did not want a conversation on camera. She said nothing was being filmed. Her phone was face down on the table, but I could see the small red recording light reflected in the toaster. She started gently. She said she worried about me living alone. She said my anger had gotten worse since Mom died. She said people online had helped her understand my patterns. I poured coffee and told her people online did not know me. She said that was what toxic parents always said. I asked her to leave. She smiled then. Not kindly. It was the smile she used when she knew she had the sentence she wanted. And she said, loud enough for her phone, that I was scaring her. I was standing 10 feet away holding a coffee spoon, she said. Chloe did not feel safe around me. Chloe's head snapped up from the table, and she started to say something, but Brittany cut her off with a look. That was when my daughter reached for Linda's old recipe box. It sat near the window, a wooden box with faded blue flowers painted on the lid. Linda had kept handwritten recipes in it for 40 years: soup, peach cobbler, Sunday meatloaf, birthday cake frosting, notes in the margins, dates, little memories. It was not worth money, and it was worth everything else. Brittany opened it and began pulling out cards. She said she might use them for a healing series about reclaiming family traditions after emotional neglect. And I told her to put them back. She said Mom would want her story told. I told her Linda's recipes were not content. Brittany rolled her eyes and said Mom spent her whole life covering for me. And I felt my heart kick against my ribs. I told her again to put the cards back. She leaned toward her phone and said, "This is what I mean. He gets possessive over objects because he can handle real connection." And then she picked up the card for Linda's peach cobbler and laughed. She said maybe if Mom had spent less time making dessert for an emotionally empty man, she might have had a life of her own. And that was the moment my voice rose. Not because of me, because of Linda. Because my wife was not alive to defend the thousands of small ways she had chosen love freely. Because Brittany was standing in the kitchen, Linda had fed her in. And using Linda handwriting as a prop to sell pain she had not earned, I pointed to the door and told her to get out of my house. Brittany's face changed, not fear, satisfaction. And she grabbed her phone, turned it toward me, and stepped backward as if I were attacking her. She said, "See, this is the real him." Chloe stood up crying. I did not move toward either of them. I only kept pointing at the door. Brittany left with the recipe card in her hand. I did not notice until later. That night she posted the video. It began after the insult to Linda. And it began with me already angry. It showed my raised voice, my pointed finger, Chloe, crying in the background, and Brittany whispering that she was leaving because she no longer felt safe. And she added a caption about breaking generational cycles. By morning, it had millions of views. By noon, a wellness app announced Brittany as the keynote speaker at their upcoming sponsor event on digital healing. And by evening, my name was garbage on the internet, and my wife's peach cobbler recipe was in my daughter's next sponsored post. I did not respond online. That surprised people, I think. And they expected the old man in the viral video to rage in comments, send angry messages, or confirm the role Brittany had written for me. But I had spent 40 years in repair shops. And one thing a good mechanic learns is not to hit the engine just because it is smoking. You find the source, you trace the line, you check what is connected. So I started collecting. And first, I downloaded every video Brittany had posted about me, not just the viral ones, all of them: the living room conversation, the backyard clip, the garage video, the kitchen incident, and the sponsored recipe post, the tearful update where she said she was taking space from her father for her own safety while still standing in my kitchen from footage recorded without my consent. And then I pulled the security camera footage. The kitchen camera had everything. Brittany arriving with the groceries, her phone recording on the table, her denial, her statements about Chloe not feeling safe, and Chloe trying to speak, Brittany cutting her off, the recipe box, the insult to Linda, my repeated requests that she put the cards back, my order for her to leave, no threat, no lunge, no hand raised, just a grieving widower defending his wife's memory in his own kitchen. The garage camera had more. It captured Brittany whispering to Chloe before entering the house on previous visits, and telling her to look sad if Grandpa got weird. It captured her moving Linda's gardening hat into better light for a shot. It captured her telling a friend on speakerphone that videos with Dad Payne performed better than cleaning content. Dad Payne. That was the phrase. I saved it twice. Chloe came over 3 days after the viral video. She had walked from the bus stop without telling Brittany. Her face was pale, and she looked older than 13 should. She apologized before I could speak. I told her she had nothing to apologize for. She said her mother was editing another video. This one would say I had made Chloe cry for years. And Chloe said that was not true. She said her mother got angry when she refused to say she was afraid of me. I asked Chloe if she felt safe at home. She looked at the floor that answered more than words. I called my attorney, Elaine Porter. Elaine had handled Linda's estate paperwork and once helped me with a dispute over a repair shop lease. She was 60, blunt, and had no patience for people who confused public performance with evidence. I showed her the videos, the security footage, the sponsored posts, the messages, the comments, and screenshots of brands using Brittany's story to sell their products. Elaine watched quietly, and when the kitchen footage ended, she said my daughter had a problem. The legal issues were not simple, but they were real. Recording in my home after being told not to film, commercial use of my image, defamation, false light, emotional distress, use of Linda's personal property in sponsored content, potential child manipulation involving Chloe, maybe more depending on contracts and payments. And Elaine told me not to contact Brittany directly. She told me to preserve the original files, keep metadata, write a timeline, and avoid public comment. Then she asked about the sponsor event. It was scheduled for the following Saturday at a downtown hotel. Brittany was speaking on a panel called Turning Family Pain into Purpose. The wellness app, 2 clothing brands, and a meal delivery company, and a mental health platform were sponsors. There would be press, influencers, live streaming, and a screen behind the stage. Elaine looked at me and asked whether I was willing to attend. I thought of Linda's recipe card in Brittany's sponsored post. I thought of Chloe being told to look sad. I thought of 3 million strangers believing the version my daughter had sold. I told Elaine I was done being edited. The week before the sponsor event, Brittany became famous in a way that would have once made me proud. She gained nearly 400,000 followers. She posted a video crying in her car, saying she loved her father but could not keep sacrificing her mental health to protect his image. She posted a brand partnership for herbal tea with the caption, "Healing starts when we stop swallowing other people's bitterness." She posted a photo of Linda's recipe card beside a bowl of peach cobbler and wrote that she was reclaiming joy from a house where women had been silenced. Linda Carter had never been silenced by me. She had argued with me in grocery aisles, corrected me in front of friends, chosen paint colors I hated, managed our money, and raised our daughter, and once made a car salesman apologize for speaking only to me. My wife had not been a ghost in her own life, but online death cannot correct a caption. Elaine sent preservation letters to Brittany's management company, and the sponsor event organizer, and several brands. The letters did not accuse wildly. They stated that my image, home, voice, and personal property had been used in edited commercial content without consent, and that unedited footage contradicted public claims. She demanded that relevant materials be preserved. She also contacted the hotel's event coordinator and asked about public attendance. And the event included a public networking session and a live panel with audience questions. Elaine said we needed to be careful. We were not going to burst in and create chaos. We were going to let Brittany speak, and then provide the truth in a documented way. Public lies had created public harm. Public correction done lawfully was fair. Meanwhile, Chloe's situation grew worse. She texted me from a friend's phone because Brittany had taken hers. She said her mother was angry that she had visited me. She said Brittany wanted her to appear in a video and say she was healing too. Chloe said she did not want to lie. I called Elaine. Elaine called a family law attorney she trusted. We did not want to explode Chloe's life without care, but we also would not ignore a child being pressured to participate in false public accusations. Chloe's father had never been consistent, but his sister Maria had stayed close to Chloe over the years. Elaine helped contact her. Maria agreed to be present if needed. By Friday, a plan existed around Chloe too. Not a dramatic one, a safe one. Adults who actually cared about a child without needing her pain to perform. On Friday night, I opened Linda's recipe box. Brittany had returned most of the cards by mail, after I texted once through Elaine asking for them, but the peach cobbler card was not there. Instead, she sent a photocopy, as if a copy of my wife's handwriting was enough. I sat at the kitchen table with the box open and let myself feel the full weight of it. For so long I had measured fatherhood by what I could endure. If Brittany was unkind, I endured it. If she needed money, I found it. If she twisted a story, I stayed quiet. If she used Linda's name, I swallowed my anger because I was afraid that speaking up would cost me the last pieces of my family. But silence had not protected the family. It had only given the loudest person a cleaner room to lie in. I wrote down 3 sentences on a yellow legal pad. I am not here to humiliate my daughter. I am here to correct a lie. Love does not require me to fund my own destruction. I put the paper in my jacket pocket. The next morning I put on my gray suit. The one Linda said made me look like a retired detective. And drove downtown with Elaine. The sponsor event was held in the grand ballroom of the Marlowe Hotel, a place with glass elevators, white flowers, and people who used words like authenticity while checking their reflections in every shiny surface. And the banner above the registration desk read Heal Forward Summit. Under it were logos from brands paying to stand beside pain they believed was marketable. I recognized Brittany's face on posters near the entrance. She looked soft, brave, and expensive. The event program described her as a digital storyteller, survivor and advocate for daughters breaking cycles of emotional abuse. My stomach tightened at the word survivor. People survive war, disease, accidents, violence, hunger. My daughter had survived parents who paid her tuition, watched her child, fixed her car, and loved her imperfectly. Elaine checked us in under her name. We sat near the back during the first panel. I watched young women talk about boundaries, healing, and reclaiming narratives. Some of them were probably telling the truth. That made me sadder. Real pain exists, real abuse exists. Real survivors need language, support, and safety. Brittany had taken that sacred space and used it like a stage prop. Then she walked out, and the applause was loud. Brittany wore a cream-colored suit and Linda's small gold brooch pinned to her lapel. I had not known she had taken that too for a moment. I could not breathe properly. Linda wore that brooch on the first day of school every year. Brittany had posted about reclaiming women's stories, but she had not asked to wear her mother's. The moderator asked Brittany to talk about the viral kitchen video. Brittany lowered her eyes perfectly. She said it was the hardest thing she had ever shared. She said she had debated posting it, but felt a responsibility to other women who were still trapped in the guilt of protecting harmful parents. And she said her father was not a monster, which made her sound generous. She said he was a wounded man who had never done the work, which made her sound wise. She said she hoped one day he would choose accountability. And people nodded. Some wiped tears, then the screen behind her played a clip. My face appeared huge above the stage, cropped from the kitchen video. My finger pointed. My mouth was open mid-sentence, and Chloe was crying. Brittany was whispering that she needed to leave. The audience went still with sympathy. I felt Elaine's hand touch my arm, not to stop me, but to remind me to breathe. And the moderator asked what it cost Brittany to share such a vulnerable moment. Brittany said it cost her the illusion that silence would save her. That was when I stood, not fast, and not dramatically, just an old man in a gray suit rising from the back row. Elaine stood beside me. At first, Brittany did not see me, the moderator did. Then a few audience members turned, and a camera operator shifted. The room began to ripple. Brittany followed their eyes and found me standing under the ballroom lights. For a second, she looked like the little girl who had been caught taking frosting from a cake before dinner. And then the performer returned. She said into the microphone that this was exactly why she needed boundaries. I walked down the aisle slowly. Every step felt longer than it was. A security guard moved toward me. But Elaine lifted one hand and spoke to him quietly. She had already spoken with the event coordinator. We were not trespassing. We were not threatening anyone. We had requested the right to respond to material using my image. Elaine took the microphone first. She introduced herself as my attorney. She stated that the clip just shown had been publicly monetized and presented as evidence of abuse. And she stated that it was edited from a longer recording taken in my private home. After I had refused filming, she stated that we had the full footage. The ballroom went so quiet I could hear the feedback hum from the speakers. And Brittany said this was harassment. Elaine turned to the event coordinator. The coordinator looked terrified, but she nodded to the technician, and then the full video began to play. And the screen showed my kitchen from the security camera above the refrigerator. No filters, no sad music, no cropping, no caption telling people what to feel. It showed Brittany entering with groceries and setting her phone on the table. And it showed me saying I did not want to be filmed. It showed her saying nothing was recording. It showed her phone as red light reflected in the toaster. A low murmur moved through the room. And it showed Brittany telling me that Chloe did not feel safe around me. It showed Chloe trying to say that was not true. It showed Brittany silencing her with one look. Someone in the audience whispered, "Oh my God." Then it showed the recipe box. My wife's recipe box filled the screen, small and ordinary and devastating. Brittany opened it without permission. She removed Linda's cards. I asked her to put them back. She refused. She talked about using them for content. I said Linda's recipes were not content. Brittany smirked. And then the whole room heard her say that maybe if Mom had spent less time making dessert for an emotionally empty man, she might have had a life of her own. The air changed. It was not outrage yet. And it was recognition. The audience was watching a story reverse itself in real time. On the screen, my face hardened. My voice rose. I pointed to the door and told her to leave. And not because she was healing. Not because she was brave. Because she had mocked a dead woman in the kitchen where that woman had fed her. The edited viral clip began at that moment. The full video showed why. Brittany was standing on stage, white as paper. Elaine let the footage continue. It showed Brittany grabbing her phone, angling it toward me, whispering that she no longer felt safe, and then backing away though I had not moved. It showed Chloe crying and saying, "Mom, stop." It showed Brittany leaving with Linda's recipe card in her hand. Then Elaine played the garage clip, and Brittany's voice came through the speakers, clear enough for every sponsor, influencer, journalist, and camera in the room to hear. She was on speakerphone with her manager, laughing that Dad Payne performs better than cleaning content. She said the older audience loved redemption arcs, but the younger audience wanted villains. She said if I reacted badly, she could build a 3-part series around it. The room was no longer quiet. It was alive with disgust. A sponsor representative near the front stood up and walked out with her phone already at her ear. Another whispered to a colleague. The moderator stared at her cards as if they had betrayed her. The live stream chat, visible on a side monitor, was moving too fast to read. Brittany finally spoke. She said the footage was taken out of context for the first time that day. And people laughed, not kindly. Elaine then displayed the sponsorship disclosures, payments attached to videos using my image, brand captions referencing my alleged abuse, affiliate links under posts about my supposed toxicity. And screenshots of comments where Brittany liked posts calling me dangerous. Emails from her management team pitching a series about surviving an emotionally volatile father. A draft caption referring to Linda S. recipes as generational trauma in handwriting. That last one made me close my eyes. When I opened them, I looked at Brittany and saw tears on her face. Maybe they were real, maybe not. The tragic thing was I could no longer tell, and that was a loss too. The moderator asked if I wanted to speak. I took the microphone. My hand shook slightly. Age does that. Pain does that. But my voice stayed steady. I said I was not there to claim I had been a perfect father. I had worked too much. I had gone quiet when I should have spoken. I had sometimes tried to fix feelings like engines, and that was not fair to a child or a wife. But imperfection was not permission to invent abuse for revenue. Grief was not a brand asset. My home was not a set. My wife's memory was not a sponsorship angle, and a daughter's pain, real or not, did not give her the right to manufacture mine. No one interrupted. I looked at the audience and said something I had needed to say for months. I said real survivors deserve better than people who fake context for clicks. I said real healing does not require editing the truth out of the frame. I said my daughter had asked the world to believe a clip, and so I brought the whole picture. Then I turned to Brittany. I told her I loved her. The room seemed to hold its breath. Then I told her love was not a license to keep using me. I set the microphone down. That was all. The fallout began before I reached the parking garage. 2 sponsors suspended their partnerships that afternoon. By evening, the wellness app removed Brittany's keynote clip from its page and issued a statement about reviewing creator vetting standards. The clothing brand deleted its campaign featuring her. The meal delivery company said it had ended all active promotions. Her management company announced it was conducting an internal review, which is corporate language for searching the room for someone else to blame. The internet, which had burned me so easily, turned on her with the same appetite. I did not enjoy that. People think vindication feels like applause. It does not. Not when the person exposed is your child. It feels like standing in a house after a fire, glad the flames are out, sick from the smoke, and aware that some of the walls will never look the same again. Elaine moved quickly. She sent formal demands for removal of videos filmed in my home without consent. She sent notices to brands that used my image in commercial content. She filed claims for unauthorized commercial use, defamation, and misappropriation of likeness. She also contacted the appropriate family services office about Chloe being pressured to participate in false statements for online content, and that part was handled carefully. I did not want Chloe punished by chaos. I wanted adults to stop treating her like a prop. Brittany tried to call me 42 times in 3 days. I did not answer. Not because I had stopped loving her, because I had finally learned that immediate access is not the same as reconciliation. She sent texts that moved through every stage of someone losing control of a story. First, she said I had ruined her career. Then she said I had humiliated her. Then she said Mom would be ashamed of me. Then she said she had only been trying to tell her truth. Then she said she was sorry if I felt hurt. If I felt hurt, Elaine told me not to respond. Chloe stayed with Maria for 2 weeks while things were assessed. During that time, she called me every night. We talked about school, old radios, Linda S. roses, and whether people online ever got tired of being angry. I told her anger was easy fuel but bad food. She said that sounded like something Grandma would put on a kitchen magnet. I laughed for the first time in days. The legal settlement took months. Brittany did not admit to everything publicly, but she admitted enough in writing. She removed the videos involving me, my home, Linda S. belongings, and Chloe. She paid back a portion of sponsorship revenue connected to the disputed content. She issued corrections to the brands. She agreed not to use my name, image, voice, home, wife's memory, or private family materials in any content without written permission. She returned Linda S. brooch and the original peach cobbler card through Elaine's office. That card was what made me cry. Not the money, not the apology draft, not the sponsors, the card. Linda S. handwriting came back to my kitchen as part of the settlement. A portion of the recovered money went into a fund for seniors harmed by online exploitation and family financial abuse. I named it the Linda Carter Truth and Dignity Fund. Elaine helped connect it to a local legal aid clinic. Its first case helped a grandmother whose son had used her confused medical moment in a viral fundraising video. The second helped a retired teacher whose caregiver posted her online for comedy clips. I had never wanted to become an example, but if my shame could become somebody else's shield, then it would not be wasted. Brittany's career did not vanish. The internet rarely erases anyone completely. But it changed. She lost the soft light saint version of herself. She posted less. Comments were harder. Brands became careful. People asked for context. That word followed her now. Context. The thing she had removed from me became the thing she could not escape. 6 months after the sponsor event, Brittany came to my house without a camera. That was the first thing I noticed. No ring light, no manager in the car, no phone in her hand, no beige outfit chosen to look vulnerable. Just my daughter standing on the porch in jeans and an old college sweatshirt I had paid for 20 years earlier. And she asked if she could come in. I did not open the door fully at first. That hurt both of us, I think, but a door is a boundary before it is a welcome. I told her she could come in for coffee, and the conversation would not be recorded by either of us, she agreed. Her eyes moved up to the kitchen camera when she entered. I told her it stayed on in my house. She nodded. For once, she did not call me paranoid. We sat at the kitchen table where the worst video had begun. For a while, neither of us spoke. The house made its old sounds. Refrigerator hum, and furnace click. A car passing outside. Linda's clock ticking on the wall. Brittany looked at the recipe box near the window and started crying. Not pretty crying. Not camera crying. The kind that makes a person look younger and older at the same time. She said she had started by exaggerating feelings she could not explain. Then the internet rewarded the exaggeration. Then the brands rewarded the internet. Then every honest memory felt less useful than the painful version. She said she did not wake up one morning planning to destroy me. She said it happened one edited clip at a time. I believed that did not make it less wrong. She said she was sorry for mocking Linda. That was the only apology that made my hands shake. She said she had been angry that her mother was loved by everyone and that I still seemed to belong to Linda more than to her. She said taking the recipe card had made her feel powerful for a moment, then sick for months. She said Chloe had asked her whether content was more important than family, and she had not been able to answer. I told her Chloe should never have had to ask that. Brittany looked down and said she knew. There are moments when a parent wants to repair everything quickly because the silence is unbearable. I wanted to reach across the table, I wanted to say it was over. I wanted to make her my little girl again and myself the father who could fix anything with enough patience. But some repairs done too fast do not hold. A cracked engine block needs more than tape. A cracked trust needs more than tears. So I told her the truth. I loved her. I would always love her, but she would not film in my house. She would not use Linda's name online. She would not discuss Chloe's pain for an audience. She would not turn private conversations into public products. She would not have access to my home, my story, or my forgiveness on demand. If she wanted a relationship, it would be built offline slowly with proof. No one could monetize, she cried again. This time I let myself reach across the table and touch her hand. And not as a full pardon, as a beginning. A year later, life is quieter. Brittany has a smaller audience now, or maybe a more honest one. She makes content about rebuilding after public failure. But she does not use my face. Sometimes she mentions that she hurt people while chasing validation, and she leaves the details where they belong. She goes to therapy, not sponsored therapy, real therapy, the kind you pay for and do not film in the parking lot afterward. Chloe comes over every Wednesday. We fix radios, clocks, lamps, and sometimes nothing at all. She has her own key now, given to her in person. Not assumed, not taken. She still checks the kitchen camera and makes faces at it when she thinks I am not looking. I pretend not to see. She needs adults who can keep secrets that are not lies. Linda's recipe box is back where it belongs. The peach cobbler card has a small crease that was not there before. I used to hate that crease. Now I see it as evidence. Something can be mishandled, returned, and still carry the mark. That does not make it worthless. It makes it real. Sometimes people still recognize me. At the grocery store, a woman once touched my arm and said she was sorry she believed the first video. I told her we all need to be slower with other people's pain. She nodded like she wanted that to be easier than it is. The Linda Carter Truth and Dignity Fund has helped 11 people so far, and seniors whose images were used without consent, parents defamed by adult children online, a widow whose grandson filmed her confusion for laughs. Every case reminds me that technology did not create cruelty, and it only gave cruelty better lighting. I still miss my wife every morning. I miss her when coffee tastes wrong. I miss her when Brittany tries. I miss her when Chloe laughs like her. I miss her when I make peach cobbler and burn the edges because Linda never wrote down the oven trick she kept in her head. But I do not feel as alone as I did when the world thought it knew me from a 30-second clip. And that is the lesson I carry now. A clip can lie, a caption can lie, tears can lie, even family can lie. But the full picture, preserved carefully, protected patiently, and shown at the right time, has a weight lies cannot carry forever. My daughter posted me online as a crazy old man, so I played the full video at her sponsor event. Not to destroy her, not to win the internet, not to make strangers clap for me. I did it because my life was not a prop, my grief was not a brand, my wife was not a caption, and my silence was no longer for sale. And in the end, the truth did what I could not do with anger. It put my name back in my own story.